My name is Pete, and welcome to my garage. Basically, the BMW, when it does traction control, it reduces the throttle percentage with the BMW's DME, which is the engine's computer, and then it also pulses the rear brakes. Well, I don't have a BMW engine computer anymore, and I have a cable style throttle. So I'm hoping, this is definitely a wish, I am hoping that it's going to still do the brake pulsation stuff in the back and not obviously be able to modulate the throttle and still therefore give me a little bit of traction control. I just don't know if that's going to work or not. We'll see. We'll see. So the two things I'm going to do today, I'm going to get the throttle cable ran to the inside of the car because this didn't originally have a throttle cable. And then I need to get this pump mounted up. Alright, so in order to make this work, I made two little marks right there that I'm going to use these two mounting points. I'm going to weld a couple of bolts there to act as studs. And I'm going to mount this pump right there. So that should give me plenty of clearance. It'll stay out of the way for my air filter going right here. And then I just need to make this line bend over a little bit and up, and therefore I can connect these two lines together right there once I cut off this sheathing a little bit on that. So I'll have to measure that line and get it where it needs to go, but I need to weld or tack weld a couple of bolts there to be studs, much like I did underneath for the fuel pressure regulator. So I want to get my belt out of here. I don't want sparks hitting that belt and ruining it. So, and I got to pull the motor anyway once I get all this done. So it looks like I'm just going to start disassembling some of this engine. Pull the belt off, my blower belt and the serpentine belt. Let's see, how does this work? Very tight squeeze for that serpentine belt right there. By now this belt should just take itself off. It knows how. Alright, that gives me a little bit more work room. I need to grind the paint off right there, and I need to tack weld my studs on. Okay, I got a couple of little 6x1 millimeter bolts. I'm just going to weld them right there. Those will be my studs. And this is basically the frame rail, so that's pretty strong. So the first one I'll just weld right here. I'll then bolt that on there, stick this other one in there, and then see where it lies. And I might be able to reach with the welder behind it to actually weld it on. We'll see. Okay. All right. Yeah, now we're talking. My connector still reaches almost too good, so I have to figure out kind of way I need to mount the connector and everything to it. But now I just need to make my line meet up with this right here. Luckily this moves so I can easily flare it, and then this other one is removable so I can easily flare it. Man, I'm going to be in business on this. This other one though, man, this line is just too long. I am going to have to make one bubble flare, so I'll have to drive up to work, throw a flare on it, and go, but I'll get it bent up, and so then just one flare is all I got to do. So I'll figure out how far down I got to make that, and I'll be in business with that one too. Now as far as the lines go, you can see right here, this line right here I need to connect to this, right? And so really all I got to do is bend it over about, what, an inch, and then make it go vertically. And I'll just do it somewhere in the middle of all this, so therefore I got a couple of straight sections for my fittings. All right, because whenever you do brake lines, you got to have a little bit of a straight section, or else your fittings here don't have anywhere to go, and they can't make a bend once you make a bend. So I'm going to mark where I need it to bend, which is right around here. And then I'm going to measure up to about the middle of that. I'm going to make them match. So it needs to go up 2 inches. So I'm just going to put a union in here with a couple of fittings. This is basically 1/4 inch lines, the same as this 1/4 inch right there. And then this is going to curve up, so I need to bend it up. So just take my little handy dandy bender tool and give it a bend upwards, hopefully. Okay, I guess we'll see how that looks. Man, pretty much in the right spot there. So then I just got to trim this sheathing off of this, cut it, and then I can put a union in between them. So here's my union that's going to go in between them. And I guess I'll just probably cut these fittings off of this pipe, and I'll use them because those are what I need. So I'll put one on one side, one on the other side, splice them together, boom. That one's good. Versus making it on the other end of this, instead of making the line go all the way into here, see how it's flexible? There's actually a piece of hose that has a special hose clamp on there that I didn't want to take off because it doesn't leak, so don't cause a leak, although my brake lines usually don't leak. Famous last words. Okay, I made my mark where I need to cut it. Alright, so I'm going to flare this. I'm going to do the same to the other side so I can do a union. Alright, there's one of my flares. I just got to make it on the other side. Alright, the secret to getting flares that don't leak is filing a 45-degree chamfer all the way around of what you're doing. That is the secret. Bam, there's my other one. Always remember to put your fitting on first though. Alright, now and down here, let's get this one tight. So there's that one. Now I just got to make that other line. There is a fitting on the back side right here that then feeds this line right there. And so I bent up a line right here to go in between that And that'll hook into there. And like I said, that's an ISO flare. So then I have to put an ISO flare on the end of this, which I got to take it up to my work and flare that. But that's easy enough. I just got to do one flare and that brake modification's done. And this connector connects into that connector right there. Nice and simple. Didn't have to do too much. And then I'll paint that once I get that done. Now I'm going to move on. Oh, wait a second. Check this out. This is looking awesome. My buddy Matt, we saw him in the motor mount video. His business, they got some pretty cool stuff that can cut out some metal, and that's what we used. We used the laser to cut out the metal for the motor mounts. He does stainless steel kitchens, and his TIG welding is pretty amazing. Look at that. So he whipped this up for me. Well, I was going to try to learn how to TIG weld on this, but in the amount of time it took him to whip this up, it was just almost a no-brainer. Now I got to get a throttle cable installed. So because the throttle cable comes off at this angle over here, I don't want to cut across the intake because I got to get it over here. I think what I'm going to do is come up and kind of around. I don't know if I'm going to come under this fuel rail. I got to kind of figure this out and come around because I also have the fuel line goes back there. I have coolant hoses back there for the intercooler. It's a little bit busy back there. All right, so I got to get the throttle cable through this plug back there, and then I have to also install my throttle pedal right here. Here's my throttle pedal assembly. And I needed this because the throttle pedal assembly that comes on a car with an electronic throttle does not have this long rod that sticks out right there. So I went ahead and I bought a Lokar throttle cable for an LS1, and this I bought the 60-inch. I originally had bought a 36-inch cable, way too short. Even if it went from here straight over, that was barely possibly going to be long enough. It may have been long enough if it was a stock application with a stock LS1 throttle body, but even if it runs around the back of the intake, it's probably not big enough. They do have a 48-inch, which I still don't think was big enough because the 36 was really short. So I went with the 60-inch. I hope I don't regret this. I used a Lokar throttle cable on my last build, and it worked pretty well. You can see here, this cable end right here has a little clevis pin kind of set up, and on our throttle pedal assembly, you can see on the top right there, it has this kind of bushing. Now the bushing that was on this one's a little bit worn, but it looks like, man, it looks like that's going to fit right over there, and I'll be able to hook that up underneath in the car. Pretty simple. So that's going to be pretty easy. I like it when things are easy. All right. Now the tricky part about these throttle cables is that we have to feed it through the firewall. And in order to feed it through the firewall, we have to be able to install this nut right here on the inside of the vehicle to sandwich this between the firewall. Now, if you've noticed, this nut does not fit over the end of this cable right there, and that is not removable. So that means we have to pull the entire cable out of the sheathing in order to get this installed on the inside of the car. So I'm going to test fit this, make sure everything's good, and then I'm going to end up taking the cable out and then hooking it up. Now, where this goes to the throttle body. There is a little Allen screw that's inside of this, and that's what holds this throttle cable right there. So that's simple enough. And they give you a little Allen wrench that fits in there in order to tighten that up. Now, if this is too long, you can always, shorten this. This is the part that goes into the throttle body, and then you can cut it shorter so you don't have a bunch sticking out. All right, now I need to find a place to mount this. And I got this fuel rail in the way, so I really kind of want to go underneath the fuel rail, I think. I can mount it somewhere around here. So I can basically mount this anywhere in between. That's as far as it goes before it bottoms out over on the other side. So anywhere from here all the way up to probably around here, up next to that throttle, to where it doesn't interfere with the pole there. So I'm going to have to come up with some kind of bracket, it looks like, to mount it somewhere around right here. Alright, in my throttle body box, I have the stock LS1 style. Now I just have to figure out a way to adapt this thing to work here. Now I do have a bolt hole right there in the top that I could make some kind of bracket to come off of that, but I think I want more than just one bolt hole for a throttle cable that I'm pulling on, because I don't want the bracket moving. Alright, so I whipped up this bracket. This is the original LS1 throttle cable bracket that I cut off the side of it, and I have welded it to a piece of 3/16 steel that I now have hooked up here to that bolt and down here to this bolt, and then I had to kind of bend it to step it down because these are not at the same level. And now that should be in line with my throttle there. Alright, so I took the cable out of the inside of the sheathing so I can route it up and down into there, and I put a washer on that piece just because the hole that it goes into is almost the same size as this nut. So now I just got to go inside the car, and where it pops through the firewall, that is where, oh wow, it's way up there. That's going to be fun. You see way up there. That is where I need to get on to that. Okay, well, since I need to take this bracket out, that will make it so much easier. I better take that bracket out before I do that. All right. Okay. I got it. I got it. Looks like this pedal assembly is actually a little different. This one right here only uses 2 mounting holes, and this one has 4. And you can kind of see these are recessed a little bit further than these. Also, on the older one, you can see the brake pivots higher. On this one, they added a little piece that the brake pedal pivots on. I kind of think my best course of action might actually be to knock the pin out of this one and knock it into this one. Alright, so looks like I'll just get a punch and knock that out. Hopefully it's the same size as the hole in that one. Okay, let's see if we can get this out of here. Yeah, it's coming out. Easy peasy. That's what I was afraid of. It was all gonna come apart as soon as I got it out of there. Alright. Alright, you can see this thing is pretty long. And it goes through right there. And then there was a spring right here that holds this throttle pedal, and this is my return spring for my throttle pedal. So hopefully the hole size is the same. If not, I can drill it out if it's bigger. I think it's going to work. I need to support this on the back side and drive this pin in. All right, so I got that shaft pressed into this. By pressed, I mean just beat the crap out of it with a hammer. I didn't damage the end so much that I could get a clip on there. I finally figured out how to orient that to get it to work correctly with the spring. Had a little mishap. The spring sprung and it decided to stab me in the hand as it whipped around. That was fantastic. I'm real happy and thrilled about that. Alright, so now I think the washer might fit through that hole. Yes, it does. Alright, so I got the nut in there. Okay, so I had to buy a 60-inch throttle cable in order to have one long enough. However, really don't think I need one that's 60 inches long. So I have it mounted there. I got this grommet right there. I'm going to put the other grommet, I got to drill it out so I can put it right there to hold the throttle cable in right there. And then I'm going to route this throttle cable around the intake here. But as you can see, when I come up and over right there and down to here, it's gonna be a little long. And so it's got this barrel on the end, but really that barrel is just a sleeve that slides into the end of this, so I can actually cut this cable down just a little bit. So this throttle cable comes down and around. It's going to go through right there. It looks like I need to cut it off about right there, so I need to cut off about, oh, what is that, 6 to 7 inches? Boom, it's that easy. And then since I had that slid back, I can just slide it back over. Boom, then this piece will slide into this. All right, then I'll be able to hold it all in place. Whew, yeah, now we're talking. So, throttle cable, it's going to kind of sneak over here. I'll probably hold it there with a cushion clamp too, just to keep it in place. All right. I don't want to come all the way out this way because that puts a lot of bend right there. Look at that bend right there. I think I'm better off right there and there. And then like I said, I got to make this piece to where that holds it down right there. But throttle cable is pretty much done. That means since I cut off some of that, I got the rest of the cable right here that I have to fish through from the inside of the vehicle. All right, so this should be pretty easy. I just got to stick the cable up through the hole. Fish it through. And I can't adjust it until I get the pedal back in, because I need to make sure that I get the proper amount of travel and everything. Yep, I knew it was going to be right there. Okay, there's my cable. Then we got the adjustable end right here. So we got a little bit of adjustment that we can do right there, but the main adjustment is how short I cut this cable here where it goes over this throttle body. And I can't really have any extra because it would stick out the end and it wouldn't fit right in this piece right there. So I'm going to have to cut that just right. But before I do that, I have to get the pedal reinstalled in the car. Okay, there we go. I think I'm onto something now. Haha. Now we're talking. All right. Okay, I got to get this spring on there, which means I need to pull this back again. Pull it back off so I can flip the spring around in order to get the right amount of tension. All right, come on. There we go. Oh no. Okay, get over there. Okay, so we're hitting our throttle stop now. There we go. Now it's on all the way. Get the bushing on. At least I think the bushing went on the outside. And the clip just slides on. Okay. I got a working throttle cable or throttle pedal so far. Now I can bolt this damn pedal thing back up. This was supposed to be an easy thing, but just like anything else, it gets a little tougher. Okay, now I can put the pedal on. And it then drops down onto this piece. Actually, I should vacuum that up first. I'm going to vacuum this. That looks really bad right there. But once that drops down onto there and clips on, then I flip this little latch and you see it locks it in. So it locks it to the floor there. So there, basically just like this. I got a throttle pedal. You see it pulls up there.